Hey everyone, welcome to Salt. We are here and gonna kind of, I maybe be a little short today, but Miranda's got a story, and we were talking in Sabbath school about different things. One of the things that came up was how one interaction in life can lead to the ripple effect, and have lasting impacts down the corridor of time, and all the different people you can have interactions or touch with and never know. And I think somebody brought up the whole, when you get to heaven, finding people coming up and like, oh, because you did this back here, I did, I was, moved and saved down years later because of something you did before. And, all the interesting chain reactions and interactions that we'll be able to find out will be interesting. And we've, experienced some of that here, like as a teacher. Sometimes you get a kid comes back years later and like, oh, you changed my life, and you're like, who are you? And
Yeah, tell me your name.
yeah, know your name again. And you get old and memories start to slide, and name starts to go. Of course I remember you. You were that wonderful student who I could never ever forget. But
Goodness, yeah, I actually remember once, I don't know, must have been at some reunion or something. We were back, and this guy walks up to me. Well, do you remember me? Blah blah. And I was like, no.
Yeah.
And then he was really kind of offended, and I was really sorry I said that. But yeah.
Yeah, I have to give myself some slack, because I've been on the other end where I went up to somebody and like, hey, and I was just, there's no way they could have forgotten me. There's no way. And yet, I've been to it. They're like, so how did I know you? I'm like, how could you forget, And this one guy, Carl Swafford, he wasn't my teacher. I worked for him when I was at Southern, and he taught 8th grade, and I was over there teaching photography, but it was under him in his class and everything. And we just, I thought we were tight. I thought we were good buddies. The whole year I was there 5 days a week, and I know I saw him years later after he had gone on to teach at Southern, and I went, hey, so you're teaching at Southern, da-da-da. 10 minutes into, how did I know you? And I'm like, what do you mean, how did you know me? Oh, right, yeah, that was you. I guess when you get old and you don't sleep well, you forget things. But I'm sleeping better now. Do you know why I'm sleeping better? Because I have a mattress topper. I should do a commercial. My mom sent me a mattress topper that usually I'm not, those are, I don't know, sometimes or I was doubtful. And yet it was, I'm doing a commercial for Dormio. Do you have an old mattress? Is it baggy, saggy, leaves you draggy in the morning? You need Dormio.
Our mattress is not baggy or saggy, but it is old.
Yeah. Anyway, it's actually turned out to be really good. And so if Mom's watching, thanks again for sending that, and it's wonderful, and it'll be great. Anyway, back to our main show. So, talking about interactions and being able to find out something you did, and did it have an impact? You didn't even know about it. You just did something, and then years later you find out, oh wow, it's changed somebody's life.
Yeah. So this year, actually, I think it was October. My oldest daughter went back to Camping Academy for one of her reunions, and whenever she's in the area, she meets up with this kid. His name was Stephen Scheffler, who's actually a couple years ahead of her, but he lives back there, and so she always gets together with him. And this last time, she said it was really just a very touching moment, because he was in near tears, and he said, I've been thinking about it a lot lately, and if it weren't for your mom, I wouldn't be where I am now. And anyways, probably a lot of years ago, when the kids were younger, elementary school, just beginning high school, I had gotten a call, and I was like, hey, you want to come down and do summer camp in New Mexico for a couple weeks over the summer? And I was like, yeah, it'd be great, because the kids were just at an age where they would love to go to summer camp for a couple weeks over the summer. And now, honestly, I would be like, really? 2 weeks of not having to fix meals? Yeah, I am in. Didn't cross my mind then. but now it would. So, anyways, off we went, and we met this kid, Stephen Scheffler, who was going to be a junior in high school the next year. And he was just seemed like a really good kid. And so when school was about ready to start, I was working in the chaplain's office, and Doug Tomlin's like, he says, you know what, I have one scholarship left. And why he asked me, I have no idea. How was I supposed to know anybody?
So
I don't
Doug
know.
Tallman was the chaplain at the time, and he was responsible for giving out different scholarships. Sometimes Miranda tells stories and just assumes people have the same knowledge in her head that she does. But anyway, back to her story.
Okay, so so where was I?
So Doug was saying he gave a scholarship,
Oh
he had
yes,
one
and
left, and
how would how would I know anybody? I was fairly new, and so anyways, first name that crossed my mind was Stephen Scheffler because he was just a nice kid, and so he got on the phone right away and worked it all out, and the kid showed up to school for the next 2 years, graduated, and because of course Campion is heavily recruited by Union College, off he went to Union College to nursing school. And I mean, he really didn't have any financial help going to school and such. And so a couple times I know he had to quit, work some, save up some money so he could go back to school. And we didn't keep in touch obviously, but I saw on Facebook when Ebola was in Africa. He went over there and worked as a nurse over there through that. Mm-hmm. And when COVID hit New York City really hard, he went and he spent time working in New York City through that. Mm-hmm. And I was just really impressed with him doing that. Mm-hmm. And so here we are, any number of years later, and went to Sabbath school today. And the teacher said, you know what, if you were to be able to spend just one 24-hour day with Jesus, what would you want to talk to him about? And I thought about it for a bit, because there's any number of things you could talk about Jesus with, I guess. But at the end, the book of John ends with John saying, and these were just basically some of the stories, that Jesus did so many more things, and it could... if you wrote books, it'd fill the whole world with books with the things that he did. And I was like, oh, how I would love to hear those stories. Mm-hmm. And what would be even cooler is if he just picked maybe one of those stories and he told how that had affected people through time until now, mm-hmm. and who had been touched now. And it would have started way back then. Or maybe even my own life. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't that be interesting to know how we got here? Mm-hmm. How, my ancestors and whatever were Christians or not Christians and, mm-hmm. and such, So that's what I would find very interesting. And it just reminded me of the story of Stephen, mm-hmm. and how, I really did nothing. All I did was meet him, and when Doug said, hey, do you know someone? I just gave his name. I didn't give the money for the scholarship. Mm-hmm. I didn't send him to nursing school. I barely kept in touch with him. Really, mm-hmm. I didn't keep in touch with him, mm-hmm. But heard about him every mm-hmm. now and again. So. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, so just we have no idea those little moments that we live, who is watching us, mm-hmm. or how that's going to affect them. Yeah. And
I didn't tell you that. I thought the same thing when Cindy said, what did you talk to Jesus about for a day? And I actually thought the same thing you said was, all the stories that aren't written down. That was the first thing the first thing I thought I was like, Jesus, platypus, really? What are you thinking? And the next thing I said was, and also the definitive answer, pizza, pineapple, yes, no. And then anytime the topic came up, I could say, Jesus told me pineapple was okay on pizza. But that's what I came up with. But I had thought the same thing, as like, I want to know all the stories that didn't get written down, I thought that would be interesting. But
yeah, just a simple little thought today.
Yeah.
But,
and I've always said this to like students, stuff like the divine appointments you have no idea, one, random act of kindness, the one thing you do here, and then the ripple effect it'll have down in other people. And you don't know how much of an impact you actually can and do make without even knowing it. So that's, I used to tell my students, like, just wake up every day and ask God, it's like, God, somehow help me to help somebody in some way that you can, use to make somebody's day a little better.
Yeah.
And you never know
and
where
we
that'll
don't-
lead
we
to.
don't have
And we
to
don't
know
even
about
have to
it.
know that we did it.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, like I said, it was going to be short today, but yeah, hope you had a good Sabbath and hope you're staying warm. Most of the country still in the freezing zone, and